We are.
Hello. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Good.
We are recording.
Oh, there we are. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Uh, okay, I'm going to turn down some lights. I don't know if I have the latest batches from you. I was looking. So,
Oh, well,
um,
there's a ton.
yeah.
What
So I think,
happened?
okay, well, let's jump into it. And then if you don't mind, I hate to ask you to resend. I have batch 9.
Oh, I'm not sending them as batches. I'm sending them as individual pages of typed documents. There's not a whole lot of
Okay. Well, after we're finished, if you don't mind sending.
yeah, yeah, no problem. Those are the sketches of Bullet and Knight and Katerina. So yeah, I don't even know where to begin, as always.
Okay, so more stuff. Yes, well, it's credit to the work you're doing.
It's a lot. I'll start here. Last night, I had a great day yesterday, but last night, I'm sitting in here watching one of Emma's shows, and Chris was out in the garage, and it had cooled down enough. I think it was like about 9-ish that I opened all the doors up so that we could get the cool breeze. And so I had the garage door open. I heard beating on Ted, and I'm like, oh my God, Chris is beating on Ted. Oh, I was like, yay. I don't want to go out there and take a look. I did, but I said, no, just let him have his space, you know? And so I waited about 10 or 15 minutes. He would beat and then pause and then beat and then pause like me. You got to take a rest. And so I was sitting there going, I know he doesn't have gloves on. He's going to tear his hands up. So I went out there and sure enough, no gloves. I said, put some gloves on. I said, you made me go buy gloves just for this thing. I said, so you have to do the same. And so he took the gloves, showed him where I put them right by Ted. And so, which ones do you want? And he took a pair and put them on and was flexing. And I came back in. He's beating some more. And I was like, right on. And after 5 more minutes, I went back out there to take a peek. And of course, the gloves were not on. He was still hitting it and his hand was bruised and whatever, but
Oh, I see that. Okay, okay, yeah.
yeah, has to hurt himself doing it. Let me see if I believe I journaled this. Yeah.
But
So
is that a first? Is that the first time he's done it?
yeah. Well, no, I asked him this morning. He said no, he's been on it a few times before. It's probably I didn't hear because I need to share here. Because the garage door is closed, the air conditioner's on, the TV's on, etc. That's the wrong thing. This one, share. Okay, you get that out of there. So I already went through that, so I went back out there. And I sat down and he said he wanted me to show him how I hit Ted. He said, just do it 3 times. And I said, no, I don't do a bunch. And he goes, and this is like 9:30 at night. Um, so I went and did about 15 blows. He said he would train me. And Wolf got all
Oh,
excited. Yeah, Wolf got all excited. He asked me about why the machete was out there. And I told him I was using it with the sleeve on. He goes, oh, good. He was relieved. He didn't want us to cut up Ted. And I said, there's no way. I told him about Night, not the details, but just that there's a part called Night and he uses the machete and that's why it's there. So then I actually, after I beat on it with the bat for, I don't know, 15 blows, and then I said, well, I went and picked it up. Knight said he wanted to show Chris.
oh, okay, okay.
And so it's funny, I guess I'll kind of show you. And I would have never in my life thought of doing this. I mean, I've seen it, my nephew does it. But anyway, I took the machete and I went like this, whoosh, whoosh, like that with Ted behind me, and then you like, ugh, and that's how you gut or disembowel somebody.
With Ted behind you.
Yeah, yeah, because it's a backward blow and then you pull up. So yeah, not somehow, but
Wow. What?
Knight
Okay. So what?
Knight knew just how to do it. Yeah. And then Knight sat down and watched Chris work. And I think Chris said, well, that's how you do it, huh? I go, yeah. So
I
I
was
got
going to
pointed
say.
fishing poles and this and that. And he goes, okay. Um, so Knight went and sat down and he's leaning back on the chair like this. I remember when I did it thinking, I don't do that. That's Knight. So he approved. Knight approved of Chris and Mrs. I was all proud of my man, meaning Chris.
Yeah.
Because Chris went and hit it. Chris, he's got some powerful blows. I mean, with his hands, he used nunchucks, and that's how he bruised his hand. Was the nunchuck? I didn't see it when it happened, but the nunchuck whacked him. He's got rubber ones, wood ones, and metal ones, and apparently, but he got them way before that. Anyway, and he used a bat and he used the rubber knives. He even choked the guy out and broke his neck. He goes, and then you go like this, and and he's showing me. He goes, he likes Ted because Ted's head bounces back.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, and I said, John thinks we should go shooting.
What do you say?
Nothing.
Huh?
So anyway, he did broke the guys, and Knight approved. Knight took Denton and Dixie had to go out, so I went out and now Dixie she used to do the rounds of the whole backyard, like one of her last potties, like checking the property. She hasn't done that for like a month, and I wondered, that's a little weird. But last night she did. She went all the way to the gate for me to discover I forgot to lock it. So Knight was saying, "Good girl, Dixie, good girl for showing me." So it's like Knight and Dixie have a thing going on.
Oh,
So that was interesting. But yeah, it was exciting. And finally after a while we came in and Chris he sat for another half hour or so, and I made him put ice on his hand because it was swelling, even in the garage. So he finally did for a while. But he just has this thing of taking the pain, which I believe the military instilled into him. He just thinks he should suffer it. And I'm like, no, you put some ice on it. And even this morning, it was a little swollen. And I said, let's ice your hand up for a while. And he was like, no, I'm good. I'm good.
it's interesting that he
He's a
didn't,
badass.
as far as shooting.
I know. I said, I don't know. I know some about guns because Chris has taught me over the years, but he bought a snap caps. Do you know what that is?
That the practice one?
Yeah, at first I thought we should go get some blanks and fired it, but apparently that still expels something. And I said, well, let's just use our snap caps. What it is, it's a bullet that allows you to be able to pull the trigger without damaging the pin. And Chris is just like, no, no, no. And
Would he be willing to go out to the actual range?
yeah, but it's not a burning desire in him. When he gets to that place, he'll go, which is every 2 or 3 years. One time our neighbors got a couple of rifles, and so he took them out and they had a great time for the day, and he taught them and trained them and whatever. And I will say it's exhausting to do that for a day. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've ever gone shooting outside. We don't
Mm,
go to the range. We don't pay for it. We just have places in the desert where people go and
yeah.
target practice. But
Okay.
anyway, so I'm gonna back up now. That was this morning.
Oh,
Night waking. Not sure which comes first. Trying to label these so. Okay, anyway. Woke up the next morning after the castle. Was glad to have a week off. From Ronnie telling me, I think I may have read this to you already.
no, no, you didn't.
Okay, after a couple of days, the sergeant that took me on the date came and told me later that day he was posted to a new base, couldn't come see me anymore, but that I had done a great job. He pushed on a cut and I winced. My right knee was sore. I didn't know why. I was too wasted that night to remember. See, I'm already
Oh,
lying.
yeah, we did
So
cover that. Sorry. Uh-huh.
I asked my date before he walked off what happened because I had tiny little cuts all over me. He said, oh, we were just playing a drinking game and you kept losing. Don't worry about it, they'll heal quickly. I pressed him about it, but he said he had to go pack and get ready to go, and he took off. That his ride would be there. I couldn't remember anything. He spun around and was gone. I was perplexed. Now that night, Germany went out with my friends. She's the party girl, you know, whatever.
You went out that night.
Yeah, yeah. And now, I believe I know why. I needed to create. See, Corky doesn't want me talking. I
Oh,
figured
a good,
that out a little while ago.
good connection. Okay, does Corky know why?
Not yet. He's been silent for a long time till this morning. So anyway, that night she went out with her friends and tripped right in front of the barracks. I smashed that very same knee, put quite a scrape on it. Blood was dripping down my leg and on my pants. I ripped my pants. So I was pissed off that I ruined my new pants. That's what I was focusing on. That's why I was limping around, because I tripped. Not from the man that kicked me just before I left the castle. When he did, I fell to my hands and knees. Some women in black robes dragged me up and escorted me to another building to get dressed and leave. Now, I believe that was that SS barracks off of that thing I showed you. All my stuff was laid out. I was moving in a daze. They kept hollering at me to hurry up. Once I was dressed, they pushed me to the door, said the driver would take over from here. They literally pushed me out the door and closed it. The driver was standing there, pushed me in the back seat. He got in and we left. I had to keep the bullet in my mouth the whole time. I had to bite it between my teeth. I dropped it once when I was getting dressed, and one of the ladies in the black robe, she backhanded me like this. So it like hit me from the jaw to the temple. She put it back in my mouth. She told me, don't let it drop out of my mouth until it's asked for. I got dressed and was driven back to the base. I stared out the window, quiet the whole time. No talking with a bullet in your mouth. The driver kept looking up in the mirror to make sure I had it in my mouth. When he saw it slump down once, he told me, you better bite down hard on that thing. Keep biting down on it. My face and jaw hurt a lot from getting smacked, and that stupid bullet. There was a taste of metal through my mouth. Now, I remember years and years and years ago, I had a taste of metal in my mouth for
Oh,
about
there we go. There we
2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The driver pulled up the barracks doors, and it was a female Hispanic sergeant who opened the door and said, I'll take that now. And she put her hand out. The driver nodded when I looked at him. She took the bullet and put it in her pocket and pulled me out. She helped me to stand up, and she smoothed my clothes out and my hair a bit. Then we walked into the building. When we walked in, the person on guard duty looked, and she said to him, boy, you had one hell of a night bar hopping, didn't you? So we starting the lie right there. She turned to the guard and said that she ran into me at the front door. She told him that she would take me to my room and get me in bed. He nodded. So I think both of them knew. She took me to my room, closed the door. She walked me to my bed, sat me down. I fell backwards. She handed me a pill and dragged me up to sit up. She had a glass of water and said, take this and drink it. Oh, I showed you the sketches of that.
Yeah, Diana, what percentage of the upper personnel in that base do you think?
I would say all of them, all of them. At a certain level, all of them, and maybe from major down 25%, just as a guess. I don't think you get to those levels without being a participant.
Well, talk about
I know.
that's the next worldview thing that I'm having to adjust to.
Yeah, no, I was watching. Oh, no, I was re-watching the videos I made for Alan's channel, so I was listening to Alan, and he was talking about that. You
Do you
don't
think,
get to those levels without being a brother,
do you
without
think
being one.
from major on up?
Major colonel, somewhere around there, definitely at the general level. I'd say 100% of them. You know, he talks about he talked about different professions, and at the collegiate level or university level, he said of all the university professors, 1 out of 80 gets access to higher archives. So that kind of gives you an idea about that high of a level. You know, he said the 3 levels of knowledge and everything is from professorship down is the lowest level, and the professors are in the lowest level. So 1 out of 80 of those gets access to higher levels. And then there's the NSA and all of the intelligence agencies and corporations and whatever. And then the next level above that would be, say, royalty and the elite bankers and, you know, the people who pull the strings, you know, the United Nations and stuff like that. So through the week, the same people were patting me. Now, this is the soldier, not the party girl. Same people were patting me on the back before I went. We're now doing it afterwards and kept saying a great job. I had
What
done
ranks? What ranks were these people?
officers, officers.
They had to have been there.
Because they don't, I've never interacted with them before, but now all of a sudden they're patting me on the back, and I was very intimidated. You know, it's like, who am I? I'm just a little spec 4, you know, specialist 4th class. So as they did, they would touch the spots where there were the little cuts. I would try and pull away, but they just put their hands and fingers down harder. A constant reminder to be silent. There are tiny little cuts behind my niece every time I sat down. I felt at each place I could feel throughout the day. I couldn't understand where they all came from. They healed in a week or so, the week that I had off from work. So also very well thought out and orchestrated. Now back to the party girl. That was the same female sergeant that came and counseled me for having a picture taken when I was naked on a date with that very same sergeant. I finally remembered the man that I was with, and it was him. So yeah, anyway, the one who told me
You do remember the guy?
it was the one that took me to the castle.
Do you remember his name?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
I'm gonna do this because this makes more sense. The one who told me it was circulated throughout the barracks.
And then I
Oh,
say,
the very same sergeant, or the
then I
female,
say, Chris and I take a trip once you start to know names.
right?
I'm not as well trained as he is, but you know what?
Yeah.
I'm well in the
Well,
war.
I might, you know, my guys might be trained up by then, so I'll come
There we
along
go.
too.
There we go.
How stupid this female sergeant was counseling me about that picture and how stupid could I be to allow that to happen. I was embarrassed, humiliated. I told her I'd never done anything like that before, but my date insisted and took it when I wasn't looking, and that's true. I believe it was a photo that somehow put me in the running for the Soldier of the Month. I wish I could remember his name. Top's office was the first step. Then I passed on to the soldier who took me on dates. He took the picture also. I'll just put pick and took me on dates, which wound up being the circus with the multiple officers, then Soldier of the Month, then the castle. And after that, he disappeared. Top was now bringing someone else into his office for conversations.
Oh,
Yeah, I was left alone. I had 4 more months until I left there and flew to Texas. I believe I was observed during this. I kept thinking, why would they leave me alone? But
yeah,
they were watching me to see if I would become unsettled and talk,
yeah, yeah.
make sure I'd be quiet. So this is the soldier again. And once I got to El Paso, I made an offhanded comment to someone who asked me what it was like in Germany. I said, oh, it was just fine. You know, the circus and the castle, circuses and the castles. He spun his head around and said, what circuses? What castle? I said, oh, you know, not circuses. I meant to say Oktoberfest. They're like a circus. And that I had gone on a tour of castles when I was there, which was both true. By the way, that tour of castles was recommended by my boss in the kitchen. He's the one that also recommended I go to the concentration camp tour as well. This was all before Top used to ask me into his office to rate me. He also is the one that gave the cake decorating classes that I enjoyed a lot. I swear to God, I read this to you already. Anyway, my
Yeah, I'm
first,
sorry, we were. Now that as you're reading, it, we did read,
okay.
but it was
Yeah,
good.
and so
It was
this
good to
just
read it
goes,
again.
okay, so, well, this just goes through me being a girl in the room all by
Okay.
myself. And
Matter of fact, keep scrolling down. I think we did this.
yeah,
Should-
we took a tour to the Bodensee around Switzerland, Austria, and went to Berlin. Oh, here is where the sergeant took me
Yeah.
on the date and smoked hash with a 2 hour drive. And that's where he did tell me we were going to Himmler's castle. And I said, "What are we going to do there?" He asked me if I knew anything about it. Um, so this is where my boyfriend snuck in and out the window.
Yeah. Yep.
And I wiped my nose and had that brown shit come out of it, which just is mind blowing. So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, okay, so we'll get off that one. Let's see.
It was good to review it again. Unbelievable.
Okay, so this is, I think I may have read. Okay. I just saw the image of a cup falling out of I was laying down to go to bed. Image of a cup falling out of a woman's hand slowly and the contents pour out. So that's the image. And so I thought, okay, I better get my phone and record just that one line. And then what happens when I do that, the story fills in. And then I saw the image of what I think was a shower curtain of the two images, but I only saw it's only like this much shower curtain, it's only like that tall. And I don't even know if I saw it hanging, but it was bizarre. It was pastel pink, blue, green, and yellow with cartoon children's faces on it, boys and girls. It's covered with children's faces in this pastel, bizarre thing. Then I saw the woman lying on the couch of some sort or bed. She was passed out, the goblet of blood slowly pouring out. She's dead, throat cut. There's dead bodies lying all over the place, babies, children, teens, and adults. There are people in black robes licking them and cutting off pieces of flesh and eating them.
This came back to, when did this come back to you?
The 11th to 12th that night, so 2 days ago. There are hundreds of people, 2 black robes for every victim being raped and killed. Such slaughtering and debauchery. Dogs roam and eat the living and dead. A horse is guided into an adult woman to rape. A sheep, goats. Room after room. They want me to see it all. Night is walking through the orgy rooms. I wonder if I put this on my thing. A lot of people are dead. Disgusting. It's just disgusting. And these people love this. Such gusto for it. They are animals, really. Katrina says, just keep your eyes down. Don't look right at them. We're going deeper in the castle, being led to the room where Bullet would be born. A round stairway, up and down. They intentionally led me in circles to disorient me. I would not know how to get out of here even if I could get free. They are everywhere. I'm so very scared.
Now, let me ask, Diana, when you say they,
The black robes.
so this all is a memory.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
do you know where this, oh
We're in
gosh,
the castle. This is the castle.
this is still back in the castle. So when
Yeah.
you say castle, it's not on the inside. This is still,
No,
you're in,
in the castle, in the bedrooms or room, they were all set up as bedrooms. So there's like a million bedrooms. I think the round part of the castle is where the ritual rooms are because there's like 4 floors. So I know the first floor and the basement have ritual rooms, and I'm assuming the rest do. But the rest of the triangle, those are just all rooms. Right, so they lead you up the circle staircase and pull you off, and you wind up in a triangle and take you back to the circle, and you go up, and it's just you just disoriented. You don't know where the hell you are. Plus, we were drugged. So, yeah. I think I'm reading this out of order, but we'll get to the other one.
yeah.
Um, Up and down. Yeah, they are everywhere. I'm so very scared. Where are they taking me and what's next? My hands are shaking and I'm naked with my hands bound. There's so many of them all just waiting for me in a circle room full of pillars. All blackness and cold, torch fire. This is hell itself. And I have to stand in the center.
Do you remember which of those rooms?
Yeah, the one with the pillars that I showed you.
Okay.
The very, very tall one meets me in the center. That's when he puts the
Um,
bullet in my mouth. He says very casually, "Don't drop it or there'll be hell to pay." But he laughs like the devil, and everyone else does too, inhuman sounds. It shivers down my spine. I can feel myself need to go to the bathroom. He waves his hands very specifically and dramatically, and his robe follows them. There are incantations and spells. He's calling the demons. Spirit can see them entering. I don't think,
oh,
yeah. There's thousands of them. She encircles Bullet. Bullet was born right there. She and the shield of Jesus surround us. I just got goosebumps. Nothing can touch us as long as Jesus is here, and he is here. Now they're all moving in and now stepping back. There are swords everywhere coming at me, and now they swoop in and now they step back. There's guns everywhere. I'm cold and shaking. Demons are circling around and around. They dive in and out of the black robes. Spirit encircles me, never wavering. She defies them. Nothing can get through. I keep wondering if Spirit is Jesus inside of me,
ah,
because it's just spirit there.
yeah.
Yeah. A big demon enters a black robe and approaches me. He says his words in demon words, and then he says them again in twisted English. Then the next robe and the next robe over and over and over. All 13 directions of the earth, or 12 directions plus him. Now that big black man is in front of me again. He towers over me. He's literally like 12, 18 inches taller than everybody else. So I don't know if that's a supernatural thing or if he had some physical way to do that. He cut my hands free. What does that mean? And now he kicks my knee and I fall at his feet. This is just disgusting. He makes me lick his bare, filthy feces and urine and blood-stained feet. I have to lick them clean. It took a long, long time.
Bless your heart to have to remember this, Diana.
Yeah, Knight would not allow me to vomit. He inhumanly turns his feet at a 90-degree angle vertically. See, your feet are like this? Well, it turned like that so I could get the underside. He didn't go like that. He went, it went in, it wasn't human. Um, Knight would not a 90-degree angle. This is not human. He has disgusting, long, sharp, black stained nails. He tells me to lick under them too. I do. So debasing and humiliating. Once he is satisfied, he nods. I think that's a mockery of how Jesus washed feet,
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah.
know? He put the bullet back in my mouth. He laughs and says again, "Don't drop it or there'll be hell to pay." I think I want to do that there. Two black robes take me away. Somehow I know they are women. A hood is put over my head and I'm led out of the castle. I can smell fresh air. Then I trip upstairs. We are inside again. They pull the hood off. I step in a bathtub with that pink shower curtain. It's bizarrely out of place because everything is so dark and dingy. And actually, there was mild lighting, like low lighting. I think they needed to see they got me washed off. They use a hose and hose me down. It's like a fire hose and
Oh,
it
gosh.
pressure, not an actual fire, but my neighbor did this once. He turned up the pressure on his house and got a nozzle so that when he washed his car, it would be like a fire hose pressure. Somewhere between that and an actual fire. I mean, it's like you see when they do that to prisoners and they're turning and avoiding it because it hurts. It's pure cold water pinning me to the wall. I turn and turn to protect myself. Water off, they tell me to get dressed. I'm wet, no towel. my eyes are having a hard time focusing. Finally, I focus and see my things among other people's things. I'm pushed from the back and told to get dressed. I do, but I'm shaking and fumbling. I drop the bullet out of my mouth. Backhand uppercut from the jaw to the eye. When I'm pushed to the door, I fall down the stairs. The driver picks me up and the bullet backhand uppercuts me and shoves the bullet back in my mouth again. He shoves me in the army vehicle. I see the building I just came from briefly. That's how I know it was that uh, SS barracks, because the car lights were on it. Knight was given a bayonet to kill children. Now this is kind of jumping around. He did so. Katerina was raped all over, back and forth, over
This
and
is still in
over.
the castle.
Yeah. They were both parched and starving. They drank blood. Feces and urine may be in it. They were shoved from room to room. Finally, sunrise. They were led up and down stairs to the round room. So this is going like backwards. I saw Bullet, and then I saw the beginning of Knight and Katerina. Katerina said that she was sodomized by a goat while black robes cackled. Excruciating. Mouth too. Orgy all over. One animal in each room. We were the show. Kill and sex. Spirit encircled them too. Night just slaughtered all night long. He says he was forbidden to kill the black robes. Tripp was whispering in his ear to do so.
Yeah.
He sliced throats, chopped off heads, stabbed hearts, disemboweled over and over. Whatever drug we were given, we could see multicolored energy moving as bodies moved, like acid trip. I don't know if that's what it was, though. We were wide awake and had plenty of energy. It was only when we stopped seeing the colors and started to get tired that we were led to the circle room. Bullet was so tired and hungry and terrified. Katerina is worried that she will never be a normal woman sexually. She is torn up inside. Sick remembers it burning when she pooped or peed for about a month. Knight is worried he will never have a normal heart to love anyone. Bullet is worried that she has gone insane.
Mm-hmm.
That the three of them, the trinity of body and mind and heart, are destroyed forever. That they are ruined forever. None of us wanted to. We had to do these things.
That's right.
This is Diana telling you that you are not ruined forever. This was our parts puddle. That's what it
Yeah.
was.
Oh, good. Yeah.
You were not ruined. Spirit protected you with Jesus. Jesus healed our body. Jesus healed our heart. Jesus protected our mind. Because of what you endured, we are all here today with a perfectly healthy body and mind and heart. Now we get to heal our mind. Thank you.
Good for you, Diana.
Siggy is starting to break down now. She is crying. She wants a cigarette. She does not want a cigarette. She said to me that she is done now. I
Yeah.
thought in that moment I'd never smoke another cigarette, but I was wrong. She doesn't
You
want
earned it. You earned it.
and yeah, I'll have one now.
Yeah.
No, I won't. She doesn't want to be lost or forgotten, but she has no more purpose.
Mm.
This is Diana to let you know that you will never be lost or forgotten. You protected our mind. Our mind is what got us here. We will find a new purpose for you. We will help you. We will find a new purpose, I promise.
Part of the purpose, this is Siggy that's wondering about the purpose,
Yeah.
to take that intensive energy and strength and make it through all this so that those other survivors that have
Other what?
other survivors that have lived through this kind of hell, who are suppressed and think of
Oh, yeah.
sisters, that your mission is to deliver this truth and help people understand, just like you're doing. How do I get out of the programming? How do I bring everybody out into the present? So you're trailblazing right now. So it's going to take
You know
Siggy.
what's funny, John? 2 hours ago, I was sitting there thinking, am I a trailblazer?
Oh, I'm telling you.
And
I
I
mean,
thought, certainly not.
I can tell you
And
you
then
are.
now you're saying it. I'm like, oh my
Matter
God.
of fact, I'll just tell you this. You and Chris are special ops.
I think I had a realization last night about that too. I'll share that with you later.
No, but you really, that's the work you're doing, I've never seen anybody do. And that's how you're getting
Wow.
out of it. I've also never heard of anybody going through as much as what you've gone through.
I'm just things go through my head like, how could I be so special that Jesus would enter my body and do that? And
Well,
then I think
that's
to
good.
myself, how could I be so singled out to go through such insanity? I have a hard time adjusting to both. It's very
Well,
strange.
it's like some of the prophets in the Old Testament. You're in that category that, especially when they were abused, and Jeremiah talks about the abuse he endured, and imprecatory prayers saved him, saved his sanity. And John the Baptist was imprisoned.
Oh,
So there
yeah.
are,
See, I to put myself in that category is just it's
yeah.
overwhelming to me.
Well, listen, I know scripture pretty well, and I'm putting you in that category. So, right.
So anyway, Katerina broke down crying. So first it was Siggy, Katerina broke because I'm holding them all. Bullet broke down crying. Knight had taken off his armor about a half an hour ago. Knight now broke down crying. He hollered and cried. We are going to beat the hell out of Ted first of all, and next we will figure out collaboration with the others and new purposes.
Right.
It occurred to me that the three babies that I aborted never had any kind of life at all. So I thought what we could do was all of us could nurture them with our knowledge and our wishes and desires and hopes and dreams of what life should have been, will be into those three babies and let them grow and let them grow up. So
Ah,
I think I have three purposes.
there we go.
And maybe the first one was doing Alan's work. And so we'll see. They take nothing from any of us, but we share to give them life. They could be the embodiment of our new life together or something like that. But those three babies will certainly be present during this entire memory recall.
It's good.
Those three are tied with you three. I don't know how or why, who are tied with all of us. So let's see how this turns out. So I think I forgot to record that in my PowerPoint. I kept thinking I did, but okay, so that's that. I think those are. Oh, okay. So this is the next morning. Today I woke around 6 or 6:30. I heard Chris moving around. I had gotten out of bed probably before 2 o'clock, or didn't, yeah, I was very sleepy. I slept walked through my routine getting Chris's lunchbox ready, and also went outside and watered the plants. I walked Chris out to the truck and gave him a kiss goodbye. Then, of course, Sarge had me take the trash to the curb. I came in and laid back down with an eye mask on. I was fully expecting to drop off for 2 or 3 hours. I set an alarm because, oh, that was that morning. I think I read this to you too.
Yeah, I was just reading through it. I think we read this one.
Okay, alrighty.
It's all good though, right? It's,
Um, so that's 11. Let's see what 12 is. Oh, okay, here. I woke up having only about 6 hours sleep. I didn't feel too bad. It was 8 a.m. Christ. Chris was still here. Maybe it was Christ. Maybe I should leave that. He was getting ready for work and I helped him after he left. I decided to go to the grocery shopping. I did not have any cigarettes all morning. I had ordered a sandwich and I was waiting for it. As I sat there, I thought I would look through my notes from last night. The instant I thought that, one of the door alarms went off and it startled me. I thought it was a sign from God not to do it then, but I looked anyway. I read through 2 paragraphs and instantly wanted to cry, so I stopped and put it away. I came home with the groceries, put most of them away. I sat down, ate my sandwich. I thought I would come outside and have a cigarette now and then go pack up the meat. As soon as I took a drag off the cigarette, memories came.
oh,
Katerina wants to tell me her story. Kitten, Kevin, Sailor, Jonathan, and Finnegan walked into that castle. It was Katerina, Knight, and Bullet that walked out. When we first entered the castle, Katerina was led to a room and was undressed.
So all this has come back to you.
Yeah, yeah, but like backwards and mixed up.
Yeah, but this is phenomenal. Unbelievable.
A dog collar was placed on her with a very short chain, maybe 18 inches long. Then she was led into a room with three mistresses in black robes. Their hair was hanging down in front of the hoods. They were all in robes with masks on. That's where the goat raped Catalina anally first. It was a smallish, and his hooves were in the center of my back and on my shoulders moving around. Then they had one placed in my mouth, then in my vagina. Katerina was just like, that's how she was born. She was overwhelmed. There was never animals before.
Yeah.
Once I was raped thrice by the beast, they were taken to the next girl. Then a man in a robe anally raped me. As he did, he defecated. One of the women collected his shit. They placed it in a ceremonial bowl and held it for him as I was on my hands and knees. He dipped his hands in his feces and rubbed it on my back. So, John, he takes it from the base, my small of my, like where the crack of your ass is. I think he put it in the crack and moved it all the way up my back and around my shoulder blades out onto my arms part way. So it was like horns. He made horns from the small of my back, swooping up my shoulders. I had been marked with the beast's horns. After that, I was flipped over and raped vaginally. Again, the feces taken, rubbed from my vagina all the way up over my breast to my shoulders. Marks of horns. This was to mark that I had been raped by the beast in the front and the back. Then more feces was rubbed on my chin up to my nose. That's how it got in my nose. Over my eyebrows and then to my temples. Another mark of horns. That's why I had feces in my nose. These men were marking the territory of their god. I was made to stand there with the leash now connected to a hook on the wall as I was mildly choked. The wall had
Do you remember what that room looked like?
just like castle walls, I don't know if, just like concrete-ish kind of stucco gray. And it was firelight, no actual illumination, just torch light and candles and stuff. So shadows, kind of moved around as people and things moved. The wall had hooks at different levels vertically. We were made to stand on our toes and then they hooked us. Should we stand on our feet, we would be choked. So we stood there on our tiptoes, chained to the wall. I watched other girls and boys, women and men being treated the same. This is the mark of the sex slave who had been raped by the beast. They also came through and took the feces on their fingers and had us open our mouths, and they wiped their fingers on our tongues. Animal urine was also poured over the tops of our heads. There were several of us, 13 comes to mind, and we were made to stand chained to the wall until the feces dried. The same man that raped us, I believe it was the same man that was the leader in the circle where the swords and guns were pointed at me. He then proceeded to urinate on all of us. There were 5 men doing this. Once we were covered in urine and were marked with feces, then we were unhooked from the wall. I believe this was the man, the minion of their god, who is marking its territory. We were led by chains out into the orgy rooms. People just came up and took the chain and did as they wanted with us. We were raped in every orifice, sometimes 2 and 3 men at a time. They would rotate. These 5 men symbolize the center, the sun, and the 4 directions, which when you add that up, it's only 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, that's 10. The 3 women made it 8 worlds, they called it. I keep mixing up this number because they were having incantations and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's like 3 or 4 per room, and so we're all at different.
You're entitled to not get everything right.
Oh, file clerk says thank you.
Yeah.
After we had been raped thrice by the beast, 13 men who represented the center and the 12 directions, then we were properly initiated. That's when we were triggered to become killers. We were led to another room and armed. Each of us on a chain with a master took us to the different rooms through the castle. There were children being raped.
This is how they know. Okay, this, it's surreal. Sorry for interrupting, but
They also had different marks of feces on their back,
Diana, what I'm thinking
different from
is
mine,
they have to have kept track,
of who had what skills.
right?
Yeah,
So somehow the name,
yes.
right, was
I
lodged
twigged on
somewhere.
that too. They
Yeah,
knew who was trained.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So the children had different marks. This indicated if they were expendable or not. My master would point to a child and give the sign to either slice the throat or chopping motion sideways to decapitate or chopping motion up and down to indicate disembowelment. In each room, I followed the orders of my master. Knight went into 12 different rooms and was made to kill 12 different children after they were raped. It was after that that Knight was led to the final room, the circle room with the pillars. He was led to the center of the circle, standing on top of the black sun. They said that. He was placed in the center. That's when Bullet was born and ceremoniously intimidated to be silent. As she stood looking at the black robes, each had a finger up to their mouth. I mean, it's like eyes wide shut if you've seen that. The circle, but
I
they're
probably
all
need to watch it finally.
going like this. It's creepy, but you'll get the vibe that I got. It's very similar. Um, the leader stood 12 to 18 inches taller than the rest. He walked around me counterclockwise with his incense and incantations, calling and talking to his God. When he was finished, now its spirit is encircling me. I'm blown away that these demons didn't see her. When he was finished, he gave a signal and the 12 swords came up. When they were finished, they looked to him and he gave another signal. They retreated and the 12 men with guns came up. When they were finished, they gave a signal and they retreated. Then each person from each direction came up, and as they did, I had to face them in that direction. They gave their threat and retreated. North, south, east, west, then northeast, southeast, etc., northwest, southwest. I had to keep turning and spinning around because it didn't go in order. This is another part of the disorientation. When they were finished, the leader came back up to me and faced me with his finger to his lips, indicating silence. That's when he kicked me in the knee and I fell to my hands and knees and had to lick his feet clean, and then out to the driver back to the barracks. Just as I'm finishing this, I coughed up a huge piece of phlegm. I decided to package up the meat and wash off the strawberries later. I didn't want to somehow put the energy of those memories onto the food we would be ingesting. I will wait until I'm in a more clear state of mind. Plus, I'm suddenly very tired. I'm going to go try and take a nap. I also noticed and took a picture of my sore knee. This is the exact spot where he kicked me. 2 days ago, it was mildly red. Yesterday,
Wow.
it was very red, and last night it was scabbing. It's still light scab now. I had done nothing. This is the mark that came from that kick. It's like God wants me to move up and out of my body. It's
Okay.
also the same knee where skin is peeling all around and off my knee. It's about 2 inches away from the knee now. I keep thinking it will stop, but it doesn't. It keeps advancing and moving, the peeling, but ever so slowly, like maybe a quarter inch a day. And it's very faint. It's not like sunburn peel where you can see it. It occurred to me the amount of violence I had seen on just this one night and the quantity of people raped and killed. That's just one person and one night. I got to thinking about these people in black robes and how many different nights and how many different people killed worldwide and all of the violence. And then multiply that by millions around the world. It's staggering. All I can say is thank God for God. No wonder he would wipe out entire cities at a time.
There we go. Good for you. Good for you, Diana.
I never understood that, really. until, a month or so
Yeah, we
ago.
think Sodom and Gomorrah, well, certainly there were little kids in there. Why do we think that? So they could have been trafficking people doing exactly the same thing in these cities.
And God would take the children and let the rest go to hell.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I also decided that I will not launch my channel until I have 10 of my own unique videos prepared. And those videos will only be done spontaneously when the parts all feel ready and feel good about it. So whatever day or date that happens is when I will launch my channel. It does not necessarily have to be the 4th of July. I feel good about that. I have been feeling a little pressure to get them done quickly and be ready in 3 weeks, but this seems more reasonable. Last night, Katarina, Knight, and Bullet joined the parts puddle. They stood off to the side, but they were in the room with us. And today they are walking around the house, checking it out, perfectly happy not to go back to the castle. Last night, Katarina and Knight, oops, took off their armor as well. Bullet let me cuddle her. Katarina for a moment. Knight was not ready. I'm laying here relaxing and I feel like I'm having menstrual cramps. I've been in menopause for many years now, so that does not make any sense. That must be symptoms of memories.
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Diana, if it helps Knight at all, Knight is my middle name,
Are you kidding me?
Jonathan Knight.
Jonathan Knight?
So maybe Knight can take some of my strength and hear the words that, you
He's
know,
standing up real proud.
there we go, right? That what you guys went through, was not your fault. They triggered you. It was hell on earth. And no, aren't we glad that the Lord understands? In that verse, it says, "We will know even as we are known," meaning God literally knows, and so do those victims now in heaven. They're out of pain. They know, and they're rooting you
Yeah.
on. In the book of
Yeah.
Hebrews, it says, there's a great cloud of witnesses that are rooting us on, like when the marathon athlete finally comes into the stadium and it's that last lap, all the
Oh,
crowd.
wow. I got
And
goosebumps.
right, so you are their voice, and they know that you guys were being victimized. So they're rooting you
Yeah.
on. You have a very important mission because I don't know of anybody that has gotten memories so clear and memories
Really?
as an adult. And so this will be silencing the false memory perps.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
So
lock.
this is the next morning. 6:30, Chris went off to work, had a pretty good night's sleep, no dreams. When I woke up, I wanted to wake up this time. So that's refreshing. I sat down and entered Wolf's experience. I kept thinking no more cigarettes and telling the parts no cigarettes, yet it was still there. The
Yeah,
difference now is Siggy doesn't feel the anxiety in my stomach. I think it's more habit now, but we shall
that's
see.
all. Right. So well, at least you can, tackle a habit. Yeah, yeah.
And I came out to sit down and have a cigarette in the garden in the shade. Correction, I thought it was to sit in the shade, but it's where Knight first gave me his experience. He likes to sit here, except now he's wearing a turtleneck and blue jeans and cowboy boots, which is what Chris doesn't wear turtlenecks, but he wears blue jeans and cowboy boots. And Knight was checking him out last night.
Okay.
His back to the fence, and he can see both lines of entry to the back of the house. He feels good here. Knight, Katerina, and Bullet do not feel guilty or shame at all. They said that John told the others that they were made to do that. But then
Good.
Katerina piped up and said, no, we were adults then. And I piped in and said, no, you were still made to do it because you were conditioned to do it.
Right.
Plus, you were trapped in a castle with no way out, surrounded by hundreds of threats. That made them feel better. That's when I realized this is Knight's seat. When I was laying in bed, I kept thinking he was off to my right, sitting in the chair in the corner of the room on guard. He says, yes, at night I am, but in the day, this is where I will sit. He's still watching for threats. He's just like Chris. Although his back to the fence, a threat could still come that way, but he will hear it. So this is Knight's spot. He likes to smoke too.
How is Katerina feeling? Did that help her?
Yeah. I think I go through that. I
Okay.
feel peaceful. I also feel hopeful. I'm drinking tea and Knight says tea is fine. I like the little bit of sugar. He says he's used to harder things, but tea is fine. Knight is the part that can take
Oh,
shots.
easiest to her.
One
Okay.
time in Germany, I went to a bar, and I believe this is after, Knight was already in existence, and had a shot of tequila. Knight really liked that. It woke him up. He had 12 shots in 1 hour that night. I don't ever drink like that, John. Then he stumbled back to the barracks and passed out. 12 shots of tequila in 1 hour in a 5'5" female body. And I was able to walk the mile home or so.
Yeah.
Staggering. Knight is telling me that he is the one who stands face to face with Chris. Knight can face him down. He's kind of chuckling because Chris does back down. I decided to wear cowboy boots because that's what Chris wears. He's roaring with laughter. He's the one that grabs his balls and lets Chris know that he will win. He's roaring and roaring with laughter. Rocky just piped in to tell me that he's the one that refuses to let Chris know about the lock on the bedroom door. When Chris gets over the edge, I go into my room, and he hasn't, John, since we started. I go into my room and lock it now. For many years, there was no lock on the door, and Chris would not let me rest until he passed out. We were hyper vigilant then. We never went to sleep until Chris was snoring. That's when Finnegan and Jonathan got the knife and stood over him and had a chat with him. They are roaring with laughter too. Smarty Pants and Deco told me to buy new door handles with locks for the entire house, so I did. So my excuse was to upgrade the house, which I thought up until this moment here. When Chris has too much to drink, he wants to come in and hassle me when I'm trying to rest. He can't get in now because of the lock. Rocky is just roaring with laughter because all Chris would have to do is look at it to see it's got the little slot on it
Yeah.
there, and he could open it at any time. But for 3 years, Chris has never figured it out. Rocky is just roaring with laughter. They are all roaring with laughter, and they all feel safe and happy here. Last night in our parts puddle, we decided to drop a bomb from an aircraft and blow up the castle. Nothing less would do, says Knight.
So,
It also occurred to me that most, if not all of them, were naked. When I realized that, I told them, well, of course, pick something out to wear, anything at all in the world, and put it on. Bullet wanted to wear my robe. That's when it dawned on me I have a black robe. She freaked out. John, kind of like Carrie Alahe drinks out of a blood goblet. I have a black robe.
ah,
I my God. She freaked out. I said, well, then you put on a white robe. So she did. It's a lovely plush white robe, and it's fuzzy and cuddly and warm. She loves it. Last year, I bought myself house dresses to wear. They're much cooler and more comfortable. I've never been one for dresses, but for the first time in my life, I'm enjoying the house dresses. I realize now that this is the girl parts that wanted them. All
ah,
of the girls like being a girl.
yeah.
I don't feel resistance to memories anymore. I don't feel like there might be a missing part anymore. I was wrong.
Oh,
Now it's just a matter of flushing out all their experiences and recording them. They say that Knight, Katarina, and Bullet had the worst, so their stories will not be so upsetting or deeply buried. I've been waiting to fill in the details. Now they can. They wanted to get all the nasty stuff out of the way first. Knight told me last night that he still wants a weapon. That bayonet that Chris has is dull. I pointed out to him that Chris has a super sharp machete right near the bayonet. He says he can make do with that, so the machete belongs to Knight. That's what he will use on Ted. He fights for Katarina and Bullet as well. They will have their turn on Ted as they need to. I was just sitting here. Oh, what's happening? This is my internet connection. Okay. I was just sitting here quietly for about a minute, and all of a sudden a thump to my right. I'm outside. Knight spun around the chair and his head. He's looking for the threat. something silver had fallen on the ground. We got up to look at it after about a minute of studying it first. We got up to look at it. It's a bunch of nails, you know, like on the strip, like a contractor would use, and they're like all bound up in a ball. It fell right at the base of the shed, which is like maybe 8 feet to where I was, 5 feet from where I was. Where did this come from? As you look at it from the top, Jon, it's shaped like a fish. It's a sign from God. I'm laughing and crying at the same time. I'm going to leave it there and see what Chris says. And I forgot to show Chris. Now, I'll show you those pictures.
Ah,
When I walked up to it, this is what I saw. Open up. Look at it. Doesn't it look like a fish with the tail? And it's,
oh,
and it's made of nails, like Jesus with the nails and the fish. I was like, are you kidding me? Right in that moment. And then I took, this is how far away it was from the chair. It's
something.
right there at the base of that thing. And you'll see, did I take it? And I'm looking up thinking, was it jammed in the eaves of the shed? There's no way. Um, and then another closer up picture so you could see the nails. Isn't that interesting? And it's still there right now. I feel like I shouldn't touch it.
Yeah, have Chris look at it and ask him what
Where
he.
do you think that came from? But yeah, I was blown away. And again, I don't know, to me it just looks like a fish. But the angle, as I stood up and first approached it, it's like God put it in that exact angle so I could see the fish. Isn't that
Yeah,
Jesus' symbol or
yeah,
Christianity?
yeah.
And then I also took pictures of the knee, but there it is. Look at that. I did not rub that or scrape it on anything. And here's the skin peeling. Do you see the difference in color?
Ah,
And just keeps slowly moving away all the way around the knee, the top of the knee. And there's that again. But I was just blown away by those nails. Wow. Um, so then time passed and I said, just finished cleaning the house and off to the bank deposit. Chris checked. Driving to the bank, Wolf felt great. She is smaller than the rest and likes it that way. She is so happy and peaceful. When the clerk asked how my day was, she said, excellent. I feel light. As I was cleaning, I realized that there is a part inside of me that likes to sabotage, but nothing too terrible. For example, the rebels want to start vacuuming on one side of the house instead of the other. So I let them do it to
yeah.
discover that that screwed up my order. Also,
Oh,
that dad wants things to be just so meticulous and perfect. When I was 16, I remember stressing out over my underwear drawer not being perfect.
oh my
Well,
God.
well, he was not there to inspect anymore. I remembered being relieved. At that point, I decided to allow myself one drawer to be messy, and I chose my underwear drawer.
There we go.
As I had an apartment later in life, I always allowed myself one messy little drawer or space per room. Organizer runs into it and straightens it up after it gets to a point that it irritates her. But I allow the rebels to have messiness. They're rebelling against dad.
There you go. There you go.
This is where I found new parts. There's a part called cleaner. She cleans. She was born when our father, which is what mom used to say when she came to check on us, used to come and inspect our room as children. She'd say, your father's going to come and check.
Oh,
So if I say father, it means because in my adult world, father has always meant God and dad was dad. But in these memories, I hadn't differentiated yet. He used to come in with a white glove and check the tops of the doors for dirt and baseboards for dirt. He
Sure.
opened our drawers and made sure our clothing was folded just right, that our shirts all faced the same way in the closet and our underwear had to be folded a certain way, just like the military does to this day. So I figured it out quick because Owie, the one who got pinched as a baby, didn't want to be tortured because I did badly. I learned faster than Angie and Mary. They used to get mad because Dad let me go because my AO, area of operation, was perfect. And Chris will say that from time to time, his AO. And so
Ah,
they would have to stay in there and finish cleaning and redo their stuff. I can see their faces, forehead tight and angry, and Angie would glare at me. Angie still does that to this day. Cleaner has been around for a long, long time. Cleaner also helped Mom clean. It's actually clean. I learned today. She prefers just clean. Because cleaner is like a assassin's cleanup person. She's like, I don't
oh,
get
is that right?
Yeah, yeah, that's what the cleaners go clean up dead bodies. Clean also helped Mom clean around the house and keep things in order so Dad wouldn't get mad. She told me that it was a great help to her. She gave me a big hug and kiss. Then she patted my butt and said, "Go play now." This is when I got to stay home from school because I was sick from Dad the night before or just sick from any other stuff. Sick would feel better and Cleaner would come out. So Cleaner jumped in and helped Mom. Owie did not want Mom to get in trouble from Dad. So Owie would get Clean to go help her. I gotta fix this now. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Owie would see Dad pinching Mom or grabbing her arm
Oh, he would do it to her too.
and twisting it because the house wasn't the way he wanted it. Owie did not want Mom to have to go through what she did. Mom did not clean the kitchen properly when she had forgotten to dust the light fixture over the table. Told her that she could take a lesson from me because my area was always perfect. How could a 5-year-old do a better job than a grown woman? He said. I don't think now, I know. He took the broom handle and smashed the light fixture above the table. There was glass all over and Mom got cut. We were shooed out of the house. Dad left. Marianne came over to help Mom. Marianne was outraged and told him that he was a piece of shit.
You remember this?
I remember after Mom divorced Dad, she was a maid in a hotel. One time I got to go with her and I helped her clean the rooms. The management staff there had a very specific way of things had to be done, and Mom was showing me. She said I did a good job when we left that day. She hugged me in the room we worked on. It made her work easier that day. I think I only got to go with her once or twice. I felt very proud that I could help her. I also figured out what Moneymaker does. Yes, Moneymaker went to work and earned money. She is relieved not to have to earn it anymore. Moneymaker's main job now is figuring out how to manage money. How do you get out of debt? How can you use debt? How to pay the bills on time, get the check to the bank. Because Chris refuses to do electronic deposit. She takes care of all of that. It occurred to me that as I'm doing the bill, she's very efficient and had made it very easy to do. But there's one thing that she always forgets, and that's to print the bank statements. Now that they don't come in the mail, she doesn't think about it. I told her that she needs to work with paperwork. That's another part. It's actually paper. That got cleared up too. So that when she's working on the bill, she remembers to open those up and save them. Paper handles all the paperwork and administrative duties and calls. Everything is kept in order because she works with the organizer. And all of them develop their skills from teacher's pet. They all have very good collaboration. Paper didn't understand in kindergarten what the big deal was. Then teacher's pet told her that she would have to learn because it's part of the work. Throughout my life, her skills have evolved and she uses the computer to deal with all of the paperwork. When Chris went through bankruptcy, they had to learn a lot of new stuff, but they figured it out and got it done. Okay, so are there more of those? Okay, so this is uh last night. So more details are filling in for the parts. or it might have been while I was putting it into my map, actually. Clean was just recalling the time Dad smashed the light in the kitchen. We ran in from playing from the backyard. Clean reached down to help Mom clean it up because Mom was bleeding. There was blood all over the place. And don't worry about these squiggles. That just means I've entered these things.
Yeah, no worries.
She told Angie to take us outside. Angie said she didn't want to leave Mom. Clean was very freaked out. She had never seen Mom bleed, and that was a lot of blood.
Oh
Mom
boy.
had a towel around her hand, and you could tell she wasn't herself. She was in shock and dazed, bent over on her knees. Dad was still ranting to clean it up. Now, I believe my mom had a towel around her hand and was attempting to care for herself and was putting pieces of glass into the trash can. He at least went and brought the trash can over. Mom just looked up at him in disbelief. I started to yell, "Don't die, Mama, don't die." Mom was up now, bent over and wavering, and said to Angie weakly, "Angie, get Mary Ann." Angie yelled at Mary to go get Mary Ann. Mary was in shock and pale too. Angie had to shake her. Mary finally ran and brought Mary Ann. Mary Ann pushed us outside. She said, "No one's going to die. Calm down. No one's going to die." She was gentle. Then she helped Mom, took her to the hospital, all the while cussing out Dad as she was walking Mom out. I was still crying outside. Angie sat pale with her arm over my shoulder on the picnic table. I asked if she was going to die. Mary was next to us staring in space. Angie said, "I don't know." In the after, because all three of us had seen murder all the time and blood. In the aftermath of it all, Mom didn't talk about it. She was injured and bandaged, but she didn't talk about it. Dad swept up the mess while they were gone and the big blood spots. He was muttering about not going to jail. Mom had the remaining blood splatter to clean up the next day. It was on the ceilings and nooks and crannies around the room. I also recall a time that my dad was drunk and yelling and opened up the pantry door and took the canned goods and smashed them on the floor. We were in bed listening to thuds. We got up to look. Angie was in front of us in the hallway looking. Me and Mary were behind her. And Angie was going like this, so we couldn't go past her. We were all very scared. There were smashed cans and contents splashed all over the place. Mom kept hollering us to get back in our rooms and close the door. Mom was on her hands and knees cleaning up food in sharp, split open cans. Dad was ranting and raving. I kept thinking about the force that it takes to split open a can. I keep, maybe there was a demon in there. I just don't know if a human can do that on a linoleum floor, you know? I can relate to Mom. Chris can get very mad as well. Chris did something very similar on in our relationship before we were married. He was drunk and out of control, crazy, so I left the house.
Oh my gosh.
I came back and he had torn apart the refrigerator and smashed all the food on the floor. Glass and food were everywhere. He had torn apart, I mean, talk about being triggered. He had torn apart the house, actually, the living room, kitchen, the hallway. He even broke the marble top I had on my fancy cabinet, had it pushed against the front door as a barrier, the whole cabinet. And he's told me he smashed it and cracked a piece of marble. I mean, half-inch thick. That is still there in the marble top because I was able to set it back in. Chris puts his hats there at the end of every day. So every day he sees that and is triggered on it. Do you know what I mean? Or maybe, lightly, strongly, who knows? Every time I look at it, I'm disappointed that it got spoiled by booze, but it still works. At another time, he also chipped up the the malachite obelisk I had on the back of the toilet. I glued them together and moved the display, but they were never the same. It irked me for 19 years that he did that. God had me smash them anyway. So that was this morning. Where are we at? 11:19. Okay, good.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
But I had this experience last night in the parts puddle because I had the great morning, the sign from God with the fish of nails. Wolf felt good. She wore
You
her
know, that
coat,
also, by the way, it reminds me of a roll of machine gun bullets that are fed into a machine gun. And
right? Yeah,
God,
yeah.
it says that God shoots his arrows.
Well, and that's how nail guns work. Just like a gun does. Yeah, like a machine gun. Um, so after Chris and I had the experience with Ted, and I, I could feel it. I'm like, I made myself, Sarge made me stretch before I went to bed. She's like, you're gonna hurt if you don't. So I did. And I laid down, thinking it was such a great day. I hope I drift off. But the video I had watched of Emma was of a woman in her 60s talking about how she had integrated all of her parts 10 or 15 years earlier, but that it was just the first layer. And 5 years later, she found the second layer. Now, her work was with pastors and prayer and certain techniques, but she read a book written about the in family system is what she called it, not internal family, the family system. And it wasn't by those two guys you talk about. I can
Yeah,
never.
family systems, the theory actually came before internal family systems. So IFS
Okay.
took its name from, so you can kind of see what they were trying to do.
Yeah, and they were talking about the book and how it was geared towards the general public, not just trauma people.
Yeah.
And she was talking about the way in which God integrated her. And as I'm laying there falling asleep, and the parts puddle, and I'm hugging, everybody says, my turn, it's my turn, it's my turn. And so they're rotating in and out, and they'd be on my back or my legs, it's the parts puddle. And I didn't read you the story about Wolf. Oh my goodness. Oh no, that came later. No, no, it was before. I'll read it here because I guess I didn't put it in my computer. Oops. Where are you? Oh my God. Oh, okay. Oh, Wolf just showed me an this is why she felt so great, because the night before this was here. Wolf just showed me an image. It was of a duck with its bill in the water. She could see in the duck and the reflection together. She was hiding in the forest, and Rocky hid in a bush to rest. She kept staring at the duck and its reflection and how beautiful it was. It was sunrise. She was tired, thirsty, and hungry. Suddenly, a hand reached in and pulled her out by the ankle. She was quite startled. She got scratched up. Rocky says that's what she gets for not paying attention. Wolf was just mesmerized by the duck and the reflection on the sunrise. It was so beautiful. She wanted to be there forever. She was dragged back into reality. It was one of the other children hiding. She had pulled her out to let her know the hunters were nearby and they had to move on. She stood for a moment, sensing which way to go. Then she led the way. Slicked weaved through the forest in silence with her friend. They killed her in the end. So she is very sad about that. Katie was her name. They were the same. They could see. No one had gotten as far as they had. Perhaps they could escape. Quiet and quickly they moved. Slick and Wolf are best friends. Claire and Rocky help too. Wolf was hit in the back of the head with a baton were caught. When they finally caught her, she woke up in her cage listening to Sarge talk about how clever the two of them were. Katie was in a cage with blood all over her face. We were both pretending to be knocked out still, but I could tell Katie had her small finger bent up like that. That was our signal to each other. Sarge was talking about it was the pinky swear. Each half of the pinky swear. I thought that was cute. Sarge was talking about using us to hunt instead of be hunted. Dad was there listening to Jack and Sarge plan. Jack was the CIA guy. They gave Dad an SRA box. Now, Emma has showed it on her show for the schools that are I can never remember these school names. Where they have those cards, test for psychic ability and stuff like that. Anyway, she shows this box, and on it, SRA stands for something else. But Emma's like, isn't that interesting that the people who perform SRA have this technology of mind control called SRA? And that box my dad had in the basement on his
Oh, you remember
Mhm.
seeing the box.
Yeah, yeah. And he would go in and out of it. So I think he got one and trained me individually because they didn't want to put me in a school or pull me out of class. They didn't want me to be singled out, noticed that I was being singled out. It was like secret. We had very nearly gotten away. They could not allow that. That's when they changed our training. They took 12 of us to the edge of a forest, told us to run. Now, this is back in time. And then fire rifles in the air. It startled me. I ran. Katie was next to me. The others scattered. It wasn't as easy to use my radar when I was running, but I did my best. Katie was using her radar too. We weaved in and out of the trees and bushes. It was sunset. Then the dogs came after us.
Oh,
We
gosh.
we went through the water and then got up high until they passed by. We waited until it was clear, running and running and running all night long. We could see the way to freedom. There was a peaceful old man in a cabin miles away. We could hide and get food in his root cellar. We just had to get there. We were halfway, in and out of water, up trees and back down. The others were nowhere in sight. We were hopeful and excited, almost there. We could no longer hear the men or dogs, but still so far. In class, we both saw the same cellar. We both showed each other in our heads. We planned for this night because we got to have clothes and shoes. It was early fall, no snow yet. We could do it. In class one time, we showed each other the pinky swear. So that was our sign. Half each of the pinky swear.
So
No
this
one ever,
memory's come back to you. You remember a fellow classmate.
yeah, no one ever knew. As we crossed the fence to the other side of the compound, suddenly a high-pitched sound knocked us to our knees. We had our hands over our ears and could still hear it. It hurt so bad. Now, I think that's that weapon they have now that they're going to use on crowds to disperse them. The military has it. It's I can't think of what it's called, but it's a sound weapon that's real now. But this is 1972, 50 years ago. So I think they had it then.
So you guys got to the perimeter fence.
We were crawling now, but they found us and knocked us out. That's when we woke up back at the compound training camp listening to them plan. How did they know? We didn't touch the fence. We saw this is before we even planned the escape, is that we both saw a squirrel go across a tree over a fence and go down the other side. So we figured that's how we could get out. There's no way we tripped the fence. Well, we did obviously, but it was electronic, not physical or whatever you want to get. We were tortured until we talked. They made us choose which should die because we could not be together anymore. Katie got defiant and spit on Sarge. She was shot right in front of me, just like in Nazi Germany, just bam down. The dogs tore her apart. I
Oh,
screamed, I,
God. You remember seeing this, Diana.
I screamed out, no, 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 no. I was hit in the head with a baton again. I woke up at home. I was sullen for a long time. Mom couldn't get me to cheer up. She was confused. I couldn't tell her.
Mom didn't see the welt on your head.
I don't remember that part yet. We became friends in our minds. We played on swings. We laughed and laughed on the swings. Katie's dad wanted money. That's why she was there. We were friends for only a few weeks, but it felt like forever. I think God sent her to me. I was so sad I wanted to die. Then
Yeah.
she came and everything was better. I had a friend to play swings with and talk to. She was my best friend forever. God sent her to show me hope. I didn't want to die after I knew her. That's what I was thinking about looking at the duck and his reflection. That was us.
Yeah.
And Katie gave herself up for me.
Yeah. And Diana, that's why you're doing this work on behalf of her.
I know. You know,
You,
when I half the time when I dictate these and edit them, because I dictate it, then I have to edit it and then reread it, edit again. Then I put it in the computer, read it and highlight it. I go through it again, put it in my parts map where it goes. And I'll cry from time to time, but I didn't cry for that until now.
yeah.
I kept thinking, why am I not sad? I knew I was, but anyway. And it's funny because the next Katie I knew is my neighbor over here. Her and her husband were drunks that Chris would go hang out with. And I wanted to like Katie, but I just couldn't. I couldn't respect her. I'd go over there and pretend and fake it and hang out, but we were never close. She was the person, though, that told me, and maybe God guided her to say this and she wouldn't even be aware of it, but I was talking about something concerning Joe and I was listing out, what I was upset about. And I said, but this, and I listed out like 5 or 7 different angles of thinking about it. She goes, that's what's amazing about you. You don't just look at it and be mad. You see it from so many different ways. And I said, really? She goes, yeah. I said, doesn't everybody do that? She goes, I don't. I look back on that now and think that that was God's way of speaking through my Katie to me. So I just now had that thought anyway. But as I was working on Moneymaker, writing that and putting her in the map, I realized, let me share. There's 2 parts there. It's not just, I thought Moneymaker made the money and went out on stage. That's not right. Moneymaker would be the one that would watch Dad do the money deals and try to do some herself. But eventually, so she was just all about money, not greed for money, but how it worked. Then as she went out on stage, another part took over because she's like, I don't know what the hell to do. So another part took over, and he's called Stage. And it's a boy because it would be the boys going out to perform the slaughters, the plays. So he's like, well, if they're boys, I'm going to be a boy. And this outfit's not quite right, but I think he had a black and red robe. But this was as close as I could come. And he's a cute little dude. He just went out and began the show, maybe 3 to 5 minutes. Once the show began, he was taken off stage. His costume changed, and he went out there as an assassin for the play. Stage introduced himself as I was sorting out Moneymaker. Stage had to stand in the front of the people and tell them the show was about to begin. He was very scared and shy. The lights were very bright. He got hot. Then he ran off stage to let the other parts take over. So he's there, and he pops his head up again when he has to speak in front of people. So I think he might be the one doing the videos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's I remember being at Best Buy having to do a meeting in front of, upper management and the whole every employee in the building before the stores opened. There was like 70 people there, and I was really self-conscious, but I did it, and people told me I did it well, and I'm thinking, how the hell did I do that?
Oh,
Stage did that. Stage did.
well, and it's nice that Stage now can do it for you guys.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He's not being forced anymore. It's you guys now are,
Yeah, I think he just took over.
yeah,
Because I
yeah,
didn't even realize he was doing the videos until just now talking to you. So thank you for that little man, little
yeah.
sage. He's a
But
cutie.
how nice for him to know that now this is
Yeah.
will, that this is for a positive cause.
Yeah. And he had me hug on him last night too, and the night before when I discovered him. So that's stage. And then there's oh my goodness. Angie and Mary. So this is before I am going to school, and I'm with mom at home recovering from dad. Is this it? No, there's puzzle. Oh yeah, this is before school. I'm four. We go through grandma grandpa shit, spirits born, kill the cats. We got Wizzy. I lose track of the timeline sometimes. Here's clean, because after clean, uh after sick got better, clean would help mama. And I already read this to you about how dad made us clean. So I figured out quick because Pins didn't want to be tortured because I did badly. Oh yeah. And clean was around for a long, long time. So clean was that one. And then there's this happened to me last night too. I had to get up and look at my paperwork. Paper, that's right. I had to look at my paperwork to remember paper.
Okay, okay.
She was the one that, she was the one given paper. What is this strange thing? What do you do with it? And
Uh,
then, just evolved over the years. Um, okay, now I get into last night because this was quite powerful, and I'm still not baffled by it, but Corky popped his head up this morning, and I know he was the saboteur. Anyway, so I'm watching Emma and this woman, and she's talking about her integration and how for her, Jesus came and showed her village. She has a village, and each part lives in its own little house. And how Jesus gathered them all up and loved them and hugged on them and etc. But before he could do that, Jesus says, well, I need to send you in there first because they don't trust me. Because she had been raped by Jesus figures before, which
yeah.
I've heard, but I never had any recollection of. And so the way that she integrated, so to speak, was all the part. Finally, she held the baby. She got the baby's trust off the altar. The baby allowed Jesus to come and hold her, held the woman who was holding the baby. Their hearts opened. And then, as then all of a sudden it was just Jesus holding just the baby, and the baby entered into Jesus' heart. And when that happened, all the parts also entered Jesus' heart. And she said that's when she knew Jesus loved her. And so it wasn't for 5 more years that another layer, what she calls the next integration, happened. But that went through my mind last night after I dictated the stuff about me and Chris and Ted. And all of a sudden I remembered, oh yeah, I was raped by Jesus figure too. Children in Jesus costumes, adults in Jesus costumes. And I thought, well, I've got a part blocking me from Jesus too. I mean, I don't, but I have a part of me that does,
Understandably, yeah.
and I couldn't see or figure out who that part was. They would not say who they were. And I kept thinking, was this a new part? What is this? Who are you? Where are you? What do you look like? I'm looking around in the parts puddle, and he just remained hidden. And so as I'm remembering these rapes, all of a sudden Rub came out, the one who scratched on the cement and his nails were on. I used to bite my nails and twist my hair and be very nervous. And his skin itches, he itches open his skin. And he was saying if Jesus was real, he would get rid of all this itching. He'd fix my eyes. He would make me stop tearing myself open, which I don't do that anymore. But the eye thing, the itching, the constant itching, it's 18 years now, Jon, with the eyes. It's the best it's ever been. So it's healing the more awake I become and the more aware. But it persists.
You know,
And
go
he
on.
was screaming at Jesus,
Yeah.
"You're not the real Jesus. I've had all the Jesuses. You're not the real Jesus." And I said to him, "Well, how can we prove that this is the real Jesus?" And I was having a hard time seeing and feeling Jesus, but I knew he was there. He said, "Well, you'd fix me. You'd fix me. You'd fix my skin." Because as a child, I'd scratch open anything and I had scabs all over, and I did it again in El Paso. Um, and well, Jesus says, "Well, go and look at the Jesuses that you've seen." He said, "Take a look at them, touch them." And so he did. He's a scratcher. So he went and ripped off their outfit and ripped off their wig and their mask and saw who it was. And it was just some man. And he said, "Do it to the next one." And so we went ripping off the clothes, and all of a sudden, Dad's face appeared. And I went, "Holy shit." And I was very, 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 very small. So they did some ceremony with me of Dad as Jesus raping me. And I was like, wow, there's quite the revelation. Now, this is the first time, Jon, I didn't know what this part was, and I wanted to respect him, so I did. He said, "You will not record this." So I didn't dictate it, and I said, "But I'm going to talk to Jon about it." And he's like, "Whatever, I can't stop that."
Whatever. Okay. Now that's right.
So I
Right.
think he wants to tell you, but wouldn't admit it. Anyway, but I wanted to respect his wishes. So then after all of the Jesuses, there might have been five, 5 or 10 different ones throughout different ceremonies. And he said, "Still, my skin is there and I'm physically feeling it. Still fucking itches," is what he says. "I still have to fucking slather grease on my face." And, it's just a really annoying thing. And he's just raging at Jesus, just raging at Jesus. And Jesus says, "You still don't think I'm the real thing?" And he says, "No, you're not." And Jesus says, take this sword and go cut them open." So he did. He sliced each one of those Jesuses open. He says, "Now watch what happens." This black, smoky, ethereal thing turned to goo and was like water all the way down to hell, but it was black goo. And his Scratchy and Rub. Scratchy, I don't know if it's two parts or the same part with a nickname. Because Rub was born and and he scratches, and all the parts call him Scratchy. So and Jesus said, "Do the next one, do the next one, do the next one." And finally he got to Mom. And I was like, was Mom made to be a Jesus figure in any of this? And I think Mom represented Jesus because Mom fed him as a baby, around when you're nursing. So Mom is God, right? And so he sliced open Mom, except she didn't turn to black goo. She turned to this beautiful, wonderful angel and floated up to heaven. And Jesus said, he was baffled and he spun around to Jesus. He said, "I don't understand." And Jesus said, "Because she's with me. She's with me. So do you believe that I exist?" And he's like, he didn't know. He went up to Jesus, John, and he was like a Tasmanian devil with knives, nails and knives and swords, and was slashing away at Jesus like he did the false ones. But nothing happened to Jesus' body. He was just Jesus. And Jesus stood there very lovingly and he said, you can tear me apart. Go ahead. And so literally, I think it must have gone on for 10 minutes. He just ripped Jesus apart from every conceivable angle until he exhausted himself. And Jesus says, do you think I'm real now? And he broke down crying. And Jesus picked him up. He said, but I still can't, I'm not allowed to believe in you. And I was so encouraging him, come on, what's holding you back? Who's this? Who's that? And there was no answer. And he refused to let me dictate it, after the fact. And I finally fell asleep. But it was really powerful. I think it went on for like an hour, John, this whole process. And all the parts are, come on, come on. We want you in the parts puddle. We want you happy. But he couldn't get there, but he wasn't a Tasmanian devil anymore. He was exhausted and right now he's just kind of, and as I was putting the stuff into my PowerPoint, right, before you and I got on, and I'm thinking about that, and there was this other entry that was talking about how, oh, Germany was looking in the mirror, getting ready, looking at the cuts on her. And she thought that it was Lonnie who was lying to her, saying, oh, that's what you get for going out drinking too much. Was I stood in the mirror drying my hair this morning, I realized that's not Lonnie. Lonnie's not a liar. Lonnie is the sad, lonely girl. Corky's the liar. We got a whole category of liars. And I was thinking, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? It's Corky. Corky's the liar. Corky's telling him. And as I realized that in the mirror, Corky just roared with laughter at how stupid I was, that I didn't catch on. And so I came back just before you and I got on and I changed the name Lonnie to Corky. And I said, you have been recorded. And so we got on, I got on the line with you. But yeah, I'm just action packed all the time, John. And it's the constant good day, bad day.
Yeah.
Good day, bad day. But the goods are getting higher and the bads are also. Night told me that we hit bottom. Now it's more just filling in the blanks. Because yeah, why is your name hidden? They like to be all equally represented. Sorry, Kevin. So yeah, I put so now I think I'm gonna get Corky's story more. But I moved, I thought I moved Knight up to the gatekeepers. He said, no, I'm only a gatekeeper for Katarina and Bullet only. Well, maybe all the army stuff. Siggy and Felicity. Felicity was the gatekeeper up until the stage shows and the physical transportation out of training camp. Siggy then is the gatekeeper up until the army. Although Siggy and Knight both smoke, but Knight doesn't want to smoke anymore. Siggy still does. So I think she has to reveal more details about this layer here. I mean, I don't know how many more. Knight's telling me, no, you got the nitty gritty. It was bestiality and slaughter, debauchery, just filth. there's just no words. It was hell. We were in hell with the urine and the feces and the just no. Yeah. So I think there was Jesus stuff that went on here in Chicago, Canada, not at, yeah, well, I don't not here, but I believe in this range as well. With my grandmother and grandfather and my dad. So that's kind of scattered all around, and those parts will get filled in. Now, Corky, I read Genesis out loud. I haven't read anything for 2 or 3 weeks because this has been coming hard and heavy. Actually, right after I finished Genesis, actually, now that I think about it. As I was reading it, though, he really didn't have much. Well, he did have some things to say. And I'm blanking on them now. I jotted them down and then it got thrown away.
Yeah.
So that I believe is the next part is I believe Corky's the spiritual gatekeeper. I think it was, physical, mental, emotional, obviously, and now spiritual. But yeah, he's the big liar. And this page, what did I do here? Oh, I added cleaner and paper. Or actually, it's clean. Clean and paper. And yeah, that's it there. So, oh, I added stage here. That's right. That's where he lives. And I think that I was debating this morning, is Rub Rub and Scratchy two different people? That might flesh itself out, just like Moneymaker was two parts. So that's where I'm at, and I fixed this. So and added the pieces. So that's dad and grandparents 0 to 4. And then dad, grandparents, and school 4 to 7, where I started having happier times and cleaner, getting the love and acknowledgement from mom. Because I believe after mom was raped, which would be, where is Rocky? Yeah, Rocky's right there. After mom got raped, she she closed down her emotions a bit. She was a little less loving. And so I was happy that I got some love from her. Thank you for helping me. And she gave me a kiss or a hug. Not real super warm, but it was there. And then at school, I got, more acknowledgement, and then we got the dog. But yeah, this is
Yeah,
that. And
yeah,
then
you had to shut down. She was no longer,
she was ruined. She was
yeah.
ruined and she disassociated. She had different parts. Dad's fucking with her all the time. Domestic abuse all over the place. And I was also wondering today, do I have a part that's Mary Ann, mom's friend, who just would cuss dad out and stand him down? Because night didn't exist until 15 years later, 20 years later. So I'm wondering if Mary Ann is a part. And she'll pop her head up if she is. But they're saying no, no, we would never defy dad. We would not defy dad. So Marianne's just mom's friend. And Katie was just my friend. I keep wondering if there's a part for her, but she was my hope, the hope that God sent to me when I needed it. So yeah, this is training camp where I had to learn to kill and then actually kill. And what were the high points? Oh, Felicity and Fatty getting to eat. Moneymaker, because nothing happened to Moneymaker physically. She just got money and it was exciting. I learned how to knit, so I get to be creative, and Stage got to figure out how to stand in front of people.
Yeah, it's interesting. Diana, when yeah, you got to eat. I mean, that was after, right? After what they did, then you'd get to eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they always wanted you hungry during sex. They want you hungry because it keeps you on edge and it makes you you know if you drink the blood, it'll help take away the hunger and that little bit of flesh because you're going to eat as little as possible, only what they make you eat. So yeah, always hungry. And then this is Iowa as a teenager, the Army,
Think about stuff.
Scientology.
Let me share this with you. And I mean, everything is perfect on here, but it just really speaks to
Just the constant.
there you go. And still here, in essence, you're being still fed blood and flesh, but it seemed like a positive compared, right? So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
shows
If you get
the
something to
trauma,
eat,
the
yeah.
utter horror that you were put through.
Sleep deprived, thirsty, hungry, anything they can do to keep you off balance. And then going home and watching my mom get gaslighted. And Mary just hated my mom. And I think Angie has a real hatred for my mom. I think I worked it out because I lived with my mom 5 different times, as an adult. So I think we got to work out little things. Plus, she was kinder with me because I had more done to me. I was homesick more, so I got to have more individual special time with her, of her checking my temperature and checking my glands and, just the care. So, and then, yeah, so this is finally I'm up off the floor here mostly until, the German crap happened. And then the Milwaukee and look at the Scientology rape. It's a two. Rape is a two.
You saw.
But yeah, it's, and then this is after I met Chris in my marriage, which is really all in the top except for his family, the bitches, and when he is drunk and I split and, had those issues. But still, and it's funny because subconsciously I knew this, but not consciously. So I always had to stop and I'd say to myself, think about the year before. Is this year better than last year? Is it better than the year before? And it has always gotten better. And look, it has. So I'm up off the negatives when I hit 55. Oh, COVID. Well, no, COVID, yeah. So yeah, when I met Chris, everything's been pretty much, well, that's not true. These ages are wrong. Gosh darn it. What is happening here?
Just when you thought that.
Right? Someone's this is Corky sabotaging me, dang it. Anyway, yeah.
Phenomenal amount of work.
I'll tell you, without this right here, this chart, I know for you've mentioned it for people that they can look through their life. Well, I watched you with an interview of a couple of inmates the other day, not inmates, but ex-cons, the interview with the two black guys, and they were talking about doing this graph and how they could see the ups and downs in their life. So now they recognize it. And I thought, yeah, me too, except theirs is probably over the course of weeks and months. And mine is because I'm remembering them, it's literally manifesting daily.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's fascinating. So, but it gives me a gauge of where I'm at because
yeah.
the lows are not so low anymore. So I gotta leave that open. Do you have anything you want to bring up or?
Um, so Corky is the one that's still,
Yeah, he's right here. He's at the center of all the liars. Wizzy with the magic as a little girl, and then crystal in the crystal store, kept naive and stupid, doing the hands-on healing energy work, doing the Buddhism, having this, experience with that plasma river entering me in the face of a demon who they told me was God, and then Scientology telling me it would help me. And, actually her name's not Nightmare, it's just Night.
There we go.
Um, and after being in Iowa and waking up screaming from the nightmares, Corky's the ringleader of all the lies. And I didn't even know that till right this second. But when I readjusted this, because I used to have the liars over here, and I thought, well, I have the space, so I moved them over here. I thought, well, this makes sense because it leads into the killers, right? And he, all the lies to teach me to go do that. And now I'm realizing that he, anytime anything happened to anybody, he would put the lie in my head to believe, oh, you just were out drinking, you don't remember it. Or, oh, the this or that or this or that. So I think by moving him away from the sex over to here, it dislodged something. Isn't that interesting doing it on paper?
There you go. There you go.
It shifted it in my psyche.
And it's very interesting, Corky. I mean, I use the analogy of whatever we use to keep things down, we're putting a cork in. So that's very interesting.
Right? Yeah. And I just realized too that remember I was telling you about cigarettes and how I figured out the first lie is, oh, I can have just one, right? From Corky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's Corky has tremendous strength. Um, I mean, it's the utter self-preservation. Think
Yeah.
about the strength that
Yeah.
has to be there to tell ourselves, I know what it looks like, but it's really not that.
Exactly. Yes.
So
You will, your
Corky,
eyes will
like
not see
Greece,
what they see. Yeah.
yeah, he has helped you guys stay sane. I mean, everybody has, but
Well,
the
that's true. I've been
there's a
kind of
strength in you.
resistant to him.
So is
At
Corky,
first, I saw him as the devil himself,
yeah,
embodied in my father. And then I thought, well, maybe that was a devil in me. I was like, no, that was Lance. I realized, no, Lance isn't a devil either. But Corky's he's the head liar. What is going on here?
I hear better. Or he's the one he reframes. Well, here's what I would suggest. We replace or ponder this. He's not a liar in so much as he reframes things,
Oh, right, huh?
right? And so he's having to help because in a way so is he the one, and my apologies for this. So is he the one that was slashing Jesus?
Yes. Oh my
Okay,
goodness.
so yeah, Corky's the one that was slashing at Jesus.
He's saying yes.
Okay, now here's an amazing thought. Corky is he's going to be okay. When I start to single one out, it's not to the exclusion of the others, right? So
Right, yeah.
this attribute is true for everyone, but Corky is a huge key to the entire system.
Oh, okay.
Corky is a huge key to your healing.
So he's a gatekeeper for the spiritual stuff.
Yes, and Corky is 100% honest. Isn't that an interesting flip?
I don't get that.
I'll tell you, because he's the one that contains the true visceral honesty. How could anybody not be angry at God? Because if God were God, God could have stepped in, which is true.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
this
Chris is angry at God. That's a lot of his anger. Here he is.
and this is what's in the book of Job. Okay. this is the key issue that has to be addressed for any survivor to finally heal. And it's exactly, though, what
I didn't hear that. I'm
okay.
sorry.
This is the issue that has to be addressed for every survivor if they are to finally heal. And so
Is
part of
what issue?
oh, the
I'm
rage,
blanking. I'm sorry. I've never blanked with you
I'm sorry,
before.
the rage at God.
Oh, okay.
It is there, so it has to be there. So it's not until somebody can tap into their rage at God can they ever be healed, because you guys have a very unique spiritual gift, because that helped you survive, but it also matches the amount of hell you were going through. So God stepped in, Jesus stepped in a very unique way. Um, to protect you and to allow you to see into the spiritual realm
Yeah.
so that you understand you more than most people, that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, and you understand how heinous these people were. But it still raises the question, okay, God, you preserved me through that, but why did we go through it in the first place? And
Oh,
so,
we had that conversation last night. And he said, which I thought scratchy, quirky. Okay, that Scratchy's the one with the rage at God.
yeah,
Corky's the deceiver. He said, why don't you just wipe the whole planet clean?
you know,
And Jesus says, because I want to collect as many children as possible first. He's like, just wipe all
right.
of it off the map. Your people will go to you. You'll get them. And he said, no, we have to get more. We need to save more.
Now let me share two verses that are going to help him.
Scratchy. I got to write that down because I'm blanking.
Scratchy is a huge key to your healing. Okay. And Scratchy will be the one to provide the spiritual healing if he can get the answers. Okay. He's asking the most honest and
And that's
it,
how he ripped my skin open because
oh,
he's trying to
absolutely.
get at God.
Absolutely.
Because God's in me.
Right. So,
Oh my goodness.
so he needs to know that 100% of everything he's feeling is 100% legitimate. And so this is what Job cried out. As a matter of fact, let me tell you, the only thing the lying friends of Job got right. Okay, so the key to understanding the book of Job is that last guy, Elihu, who was so off base, he was beyond redemption. Elihu was, because he was such an ass. So God didn't even tell Job to pray for him. But Elihu says, here it is. This is the key to understanding the book of Job, what Job was going through, because Job lost his kids to natural disasters and his closest friends, his servants, closest friends, to murder. Okay, and so here it is in chapter 36:17. Says this, but this Elihu is an absolute ass, by the way. But here's the only thing that Elihu said that was correct. He said, but you're so obsessed, okay? You're obsessed with whether the godless will be judged. Don't worry, judgment and justice will be upheld. Now, how in the world a stupid ass like Elihu got that right? But what it shows you is this. That's what was behind, and all these stupid four friends, three plus this one idiot, that was it. They knew it. And so they're torquing Job with this, but that's the whole thing. You're so obsessed with whether the godless will be judged. And now he runs his mouth, though. Don't worry, judgment and just. Now, he didn't believe it. But the only true things these friends ever said were judgment and justice will be upheld. Now, again, these three freaks of friends, and then Jehu's beyond hope, was going to be judged. But that's how to understand the intensity and also the compassion that God has with Job, because it says at the beginning and the end of the book, So the book of Job is like an Oreo cookie. All the crap is in the middle. Okay? But it's in the beginning and the end of the book, it says, in all these things, Job did not sin. So therefore, when it says you're obsessed with whether the godless will be judged, Job didn't sin. And what I believe God helped Job understand is that Job, you don't understand it, you can't comprehend it, but I was feeling it when you were going through it.
I have to be honest, I didn't absorb any of that, and I'm thrilled this is recording. So,
Now, ready for this?
like,
Ready for this? These are two very powerful verses that are this will help with the healing.
okay.
First of all, in Isaiah chapter 59 and chapter 63, those will be great chapters
I think I read those ones.
for you to get a sense of God's intensity. Now, I want Scratchy to hear this. Okay, let me just read 63.
It's the Tasmanian devil.
Okay, we're going to watch a Tasmanian devil.
Okay.
Ready? This is a beautiful chapter. And it's like somebody first is narrating this. It says, well, who is this that comes from Edom, the city from the city of Basra, with his clothes stained red? Who's this in his royal robes marching in his great strength? Now God's going to talk. It is I, the Lord, announcing your salvation. It is I, the Lord, who has the power to save. I'm getting choked up. Here we go. Why are your clothes so red? As if you've been treading out the grapes, the grapes of wrath. Here's that phrase.
Oh, okay.
Here it is. I've been treading the winepress alone. No one was there to help me. No one was there with me. In my anger, I've trampled my enemies as if they were grapes. In my fury, trampled my foes. Their blood has stained my clothes. For the time has come for me to avenge my people. Another rendering, for the day of vengeance was in my heart, to ransom them from their oppressors. Now, here's key. I was amazed and appalled to see that no one intervened to help the oppressed. So I stepped in myself to save them with my strong arm, and my wrath sustained me. Sorry. I crushed the nations in my anger and made them stagger and fall to the ground, spilling their blood upon the earth. And now it goes on. I will tell of the Lord's unfailing love. That is how we know he has unfailing love. And now it says this, a couple verses down. In all their sufferings, he also suffered, and he personally rescued them. And in his love and mercy, he redeemed them. Now another verse. In chapter 42 of Isaiah, verse 14. And this changes everything. So this is God saying, he will say, I have long been silent. Yes, I have restrained myself, but now, like a woman in labor, I will cry and groan and pant. This is God saying, I will level the mountains and the hills and blight all their greenery. I will turn the rivers, and it just goes on. And to think that God was feeling everything that happened to you, and that he had to restrain himself. It would be like any of us watching our own kid, and for whatever reason, but how much intense rage was building through all that, and God still held it back. But there will come a point in time where it's held it back long enough.
I realized something yesterday because I had such a great day. I thought, why don't I rewatch my experiment series? So I did half the night before and half yesterday, but last night I was it wasn't until I got to the fourth or fifth one. I think I did Pavlov, Skinner. But anyway, I kept thinking, I'm gonna have to do an intro video explaining, Alan's point of view, and that he's looking at the world from the top down and explaining it to you, and how these scientists how and why they were doing what they were doing. But I also want to fold into that don't let your parts retire. All of you SRA people, don't let them retire. Don't have them disappear into God's chest, never to know them.
Oh,
They are trained killers. They are butchers. They are this, they are that. Once you can embrace them, I guess because I've watched all of my killers use their knives and their bat and all of them. It's time for us to wake them up and train, because shit's coming down and we are God's warriors in the physical world, and we might be called on to kill someone. And if you've integrated your part and retired them, they're not going to be on their toes. They're not going to be ready. They're going to fumble. But I feel like I also watched another one of Emma's really old ones. She's interviewing a man who is an ex-Scotland Yard guy who God made him be a cop and put him in the pedophile ring. And he was very good at it, caught a lot of guys, but he had to leave. Anyway, he was talking about how he had. Do you have time?
yeah.
Um, uh, he said he had interacted with a man on the street, a Jamaican man. He was a crackhead. He was violent. He was vicious. He would bite you. He was the meanest, nastiest, evilest character you're going to run into as a cop. And he said he had to fight this man. But after he got out of the service and I think it was, yeah, he was saved already anyway. He started running into different characters from his cop days who were once the most.
And could you hear that noise outside my office, my room?
No.
Fighter jet.
Oh, really?
See,
Just
that's what happens. It's just, I think the Lord wants me to share this. Those are imprecatory prayers. So when we pray in imprecatory prayers, he sends fighter jets out.
and that's what blew up the castle. A fighter jet dropped a bomb on the castle.
Maybe that was to let Corky know.
Okay. Anyways, he says afterwards he started running into all these different ex-mobsters. He said, men's men, hard men, mean men, and they're now saved. And he said, we've become friends and we baptize people. And he said, how did he say it? He said, God is preparing us because something's about to pop off. He's getting his army ready. And when he said that, I knew that, and I had Chris come in. I said, watch this 5-minute little clip. And Chris was like, yeah, I already know. I already know. Because the guy kept, things are about to start popping off. And in the Alan series, Alan's talking about things are winding up. It's like everybody knows. And I thought, that's part of what I need to convey to these people is that you need every single one of your parts. You need to be able to switch in and out of them in an instant. And that's what I'm learning with these different experiences. Like when Wolf was out in the forest, Lonnie is there, Sadie is there, Claire is there, and they all worked together to get through there. And God sent them signs when they needed it. When they needed hope, God sent a sign. And that's what they need to know, not all this nonsense about integrating and retiring. And I keep thinking about Carrie Elahe, the butcher. I'm like, she's invaluable to this, but she's got her parts hanging around in a castle swinging on swings all day, which is fine. but they also need to know that their ability to cut open a body is going to be needed, whether she likes it or not. Do you know what
Mhm.
I mean? I mean, and that's what Knight was showing me. He says, look, you already know. Bam. And I was blown away. I wasn't standing quite right and I wasn't this quite right and whatever, but I think Chris is going to tighten that up. You know?
Got a
So
resident teacher there.
yeah, and he showed me, because I hold the bat higher up because it's easier on my wrist. He said, that's because of the way you're standing. He said, watch me. And his blows were just gobsmackingly, you could feel the air reverberate around it. And he said, because I'm standing this way, I can put my hand at the base of the bat and use my whole body. And it will increase your power. And I just anyway, so but it's like God is guiding me to certain videos at certain times and they all coalesce together. And that was the aha moment I had right before we went out and worked on Ted. I was like, well, oh my
So,
goodness.
and you're referencing actual skills, talents, ability, and yeah, who knows? But I can also assure this.
I want every scrap of talent in any
Yeah,
arena I can get.
okay, right. But also every part, yeah. So here people are saying integrate and retire and
And
you know,
yeah, what is their life like without the parts?
that's right. And so no, you guys are who you are. And so now the more you can are able to work as that unified team, then that collective energy is just like when a football team
Look
gets in the
through
room.
my eyes.
Here we go.
Yes.
Here we go. Everybody
Yeah.
knows that experience watching a sports team that's come from behind, and now they have the inertia. They'll right. The announcers will say they're unstoppable, and you
And
watch the other
Chris says
team,
that.
right? You watch the other team. They've been ahead by a football team for 3.5 quarters. It's down to the last 3 minutes, and all of a sudden, you can just see the momentum, right? They'll talk in terms of there's something, the energy. The other team can. They're starting to make mistakes, but there's just this flow. They get in that flow state. So all of you together have that collective flow state. So you're fast, you're agile, but you also have the knowledge and you have the intensity that it's going to take since
To
ultimately
face it down because it's not the psycho down the street, it's Satan himself.
that's right. And therefore, since we don't
And we
wrestle,
know what he looks like. We know what he
there you
feels
go.
like. We know what he smells like.
That's right. And so ultimately, since we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, meaning all the survivors that have gone through this stuff, it's both a physical battle, but also a spiritual battle. And so you guys really are that special ops. You understand how to do battle in the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
Um, and the intensity that it will take to continue to work through the meaning and the implications of all these different things that you were subjected to is going to take that internal strength. So that is where
But
it's
it needs to be conscious.
there you go. There you go. So it's
Full
unfortunate.
conscious.
That's right. So to think that you have people now that are telling others to integrate or retire,
Or
it's
hypnotize them,
yeah, it's
hypnotize it
stupid,
away and go to
right?
Xena reticuli and walk past the healing stone. When that woman said that, I was like, are
Where
you
and
kidding
what
me?
person was this? See,
That
gosh,
same interview, the
I'm so
three
glad I have
hour
you.
long, it's
So
the
glad I have.
last hour. She
I'm so
talks
glad.
about how she was in a hypnotized state and was on a different planet and walked past the healing stone
This
and
is
she's
bizarre.
miraculously healed. And I'm like, you are a plant, is what I kept thinking. Or
Yeah,
you
no, that's right.
or your
This is
parts
and
are
this is where it
they're
comes.
put in there to disrupt the people really going through it. And
Yeah,
so everybody's going off in a million different directions. And I'm like, no.
Well,
No,
then wait till
no.
this next one on Tuesday. Em and I are gonna, so I'm glad you referenced it because it does fit in and I'll probably end up remembering it. As a matter of fact, I will. I'm going to
She
tell
just
people,
goes
"Hey,
on and
there's
on about
no
this.
getting
Nobody
rid of parts.
knows
You want
this.
all the parts. We're not going to hypnotize parts out of it. We're bringing them together. We're bringing everybody out from the dark into the light so they
Well,
can
and
feel."
it's going to terrify them because they get little parts terrified already that they haven't worked out the details, which is what this process flushes out. And it's going to scare them what I'm going to say. But they need to know that this battle's coming to a head. I mean, I hate to say end times because everybody's talking about end times, whatever. But we have been specially trained by God to know what we're looking at. We're going to know what the smell, the taste, the vibration, the etheric movement, all of it. We've seen it. And only we can point it out.
There you go. There you go.
And we have the skills to kill it.
And like what Joseph in the Old Testament said after he'd been sold into slavery and then falsely accused and finally has a chance to stand in front of his brothers, right? You
Yeah.
meant you meant it for evil, but God turned it around. He meant it for good.
Yeah, exactly. And I keep going back to that thought that God asked me before I was born, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yeah, you're on my side. Yeah, we can't lose. You know? Yeah. And I'm gonna say it. I'm just concerned I'm gonna blow. I have no audience, but whatever audience, I'm gonna blow 90% of them off anyway. But maybe that's the point, to filter out that 5 or 10%,
Well, if and when
whatever. I don't
you're
know. Anyway, that's down the road. That I'll let God fish all that out.
Diane, I want you to know if ever you would want me to sit with you and record something
Yeah, yeah.
to
We talked
validate
about that once. You don't want me to
and
mention your name because you think it'll um make me lose credibility or something, or you lose credibility or something. I don't remember
well,
what
maybe I
that.
was referencing the client therapist,
Yeah, that relationship. Yeah.
but
I keep
um,
saying to myself, okay, guys, we have to say our therapist, counselor.
down the road either way, right?
Yeah.
No, um, to be able to speak to your credibility as far as this is just and the process.
I just This is so big, John, and well, Corky's telling me I'm little.
Yeah,
So
but you know what? Isn't it ready? Everybody got his
so
use.
big, but everybody
Everybody
has
got
their
his use.
role.
God only uses little people. That's not,
Yeah.
oh,
I mean, but there's all those other people that were in that castle, and how many other hundreds of castles over all the nations. There is an army of us, an army. Do you know what I'm saying? There's an army of knights.
yeah.
I'm not saying Katarina is going to be ever put into play, but certainly Bullet will be faced down and intimidated, and Knight needs training. I'm not saying I'm going to be a 60-year-old woman, but if shit hits the fan, which is why I have that garden out there, then, I don't want to just rely on Chris. I've got to be able to protect myself, and whoever's around me. And that's scary to think of, but not as much so more. You know, I could
Well,
swing a machete and
you can.
disembowel you.
Yeah, you,
Holy crap. I mean, it's a horrible thing to say out loud, but it's just, I guess I'm just confronting that fact that that's a possibility, a real possibility, you know? And, So now there's a million questions to go with that, but
Well, you're doing an outstanding job continuing to work through it.
yeah,
More.
that woman, the older woman, with the integration, and now she's on a second level integration. She was talking about how when she first started, she said there really wasn't anything around. But she said now there's so many and
Okay,
they're
so the
moving
different lady.
so fast. Yeah, different, older
Oh,
woman.
okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah,
The woman I talked about in the beginning of this
gotcha.
session, who had the village, her parts lived in a village and they all jumped into Jesus's heart. She was saying, she goes, but now there's so many of us. And they're moving through it faster. And when she said that, I thought, yeah, it's time. It's time. And I thought, well, that's why God's given me the what do you call that? The super souped up condensed version,
Yeah,
not condensed, but just the hopped up version of this
you've,
super fast.
you've been fast tracked.
That's the word, yes. I'm like, my brain, the parts are all like flipping around. Corky's blocking things too. So I'm gonna
Well,
watch this later.
yeah. Well,
And you know what it was? My power button is right next to my camera button. And so the camera was off and the light was on, and I kept thinking it was the power light, but it was telling me the camera's off. So Corky, and that happened, remember, way a long time ago. Corky made me forget all about it.
well, Corky, if he wants to write some stuff to me, he's got all the legitimate questions.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, I'll send you his page because
Yeah.
well, this is Corky. I guess I think it's Scratchy that is the saboteur.
It,
Corky's the liar. He's
it
the
will both of them,
deceiver.
and Scratchy as well. And
Yeah.
that would be Scratchy. Um, no,
Keep trying to figure out when
their
was he
voices are
born?
very, very important. So,
Okay. I think he was born between these guys because he just has an incredible fury like these two.
and he's got righteous indignation. So I
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
him to know that, right?
Michael does.
That he's going to be the key to the healing because he's got questions.
Scratchy. Okay.
Well, let me pray. Diana.
Okay, let me I guess you didn't even see what I was doing there. Okay.
Oh, what? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going between Michael and Lance, the righteous
Oh,
indignation and the
oh.
fury.
Well, it may very well be that Scratchy. I'd recommend he consider looking for a picture of himself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah. It's
And he's going to be a badass angel. He's,
and,
he's,
and this is how he wants to pray. And I'm like, no, you do this or this.
it
And he's
doesn't
like,
matter.
oh,
It doesn't matter.
okay.
Let me pray. Lord, thank you. Thank you that Diane and I were able to meet through the different ways you brought us together. And now here we are. And Lord, what an amazing thing you're doing, bringing up all these memories. Lord, you know what was done, and we know how rageful you are on everybody's behalf. Continue to give Scratchy a sense that every ounce of his fury is legitimate and that you honor that. And thank you that you recorded how you are rageful on our behalf. So thank you for that. Thank you that not one ounce of our pain ever fell on deaf ears, and that you have a strong and mighty arm, and you will bring forth justice. Let us see that. And thank you that you have called Diana and the whole team in there to set captives free. So we will trust that the healing process then will lead to whatever is next. So thank you. Thank you for your commitment to us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Feel
Good.
exhausted.
Okay, well, let's plan on next week. And if something comes up, email me or text me.
I will. Thank you. Appreciate it. God bless you.
Okay, we'll talk next
Okay.
week.
All right. Bye.